Welcome, Roast Nation. This is Chris Cordani and Angie Wong. It's time for Prime Roast, and we have something, a lot of good stuff cooked up, right?
Every single day. Look, there's been so much newsing this week and so much more coming up. We have the Epstein list possibly being released this week.
I'm looking for the Barbarino list. Or the Horseshack list. What about the Horseshack list? Those are some. Or the Freddie Boom Boom Washington list. Should I go down I'll go down as far as the Mr. Woodman list, or even Judy from Miss Fishbeck's class list.
I don't know that one.
Oh yes, I used to love Welcome Back, Kotter. That was religious watching when I was in primary school.
I see. Yeah, no, we've got a lot to roast today. It's going to be a great show, and we have a very special guest, which I'm going to let Chris bring in today.
Oh, okay. Well, how about that? Drew Berquist, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Well, tell us about your show first, then we'll start roasting.
All right. Yeah, I love roasting. So my show is called This Is My Show with Drew Berquist. There's kind of a long story behind that, but it is Monday through Thursday. It's live, 3 p.m. Eastern. We have a good time. It's kind of an ensemble cast. We just, whatever happens during the hour and a half or so that the show lasts. Go through a lot of news, but we do it in kind of an entertaining, kind of just fun way. It's a little different than some of the other stuffy shows that are out there. So it's definitely fun. You can check it out pretty much any of the major platforms that are out there. Just search my name or, look for this ugly face right here and you'll find it. And it'll be there 3 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday.
Oh, you guys are better looking than I am here. So,
and we should let everyone know that Drew is a former counterterrorism officer, which you have a lot to say these days because everything, it seems like it's kind of fallen to, your past history working there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I had the privilege to spend a lot of time overseas doing counterterrorism operations, both in the special operations and military community, all from a civilian standpoint, which is weird. I was kind of an enigma in terms of how I fit into all of that, but that's a different story for a different time. But yeah, I mean, it's wild. You see a lot of, first of all, these groups never went anywhere overseas. They weren't in the news cycle because we could only focus on a couple things at once here in America. But that's coming back. Obviously the terror attack in New Orleans. I mean, I've thought that this kind of stuff was coming forever. We had an IED, from a cartel, that killed some farmers this week down in the border. And then all this stuff that's about to happen, presumably south of the border, with us targeting cartels, is going to lead to some terror-like things here. So it's come full circle. Every once in a while I'm needed. Which
all the time.
Well, you're needed here. As a matter of fact, I have a question for you. You're a counterterrorism guy, which will probably go into the idea of a politician going on television and issuing a thinly veiled warning or possible threat like Chucky Schumer did quite recently, which I found interesting. So let's watch a clip of old Charles here and what he said to MSNBC's Mark Cuban.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you. So even for a practical, supposedly hard-nosed businessman, he's being really dumb to do this.
What do you think the intelligence community would do if they were motivated?
I don't know, but from what I am told, they are very upset with how he has treated them and talked about them. And we need the intelligence community. We don't know what's going on. Look at the Russian hacking. Without the intelligence community, we wouldn't have discovered it.
Do you think he has an agenda to try to dismantle parts of the intelligence community? I mean, this form of taunting hostility.
Whether you're a super liberal Democrat or a very conservative Republican, you should be against dismantling the intelligence community.
You got to think that the idea that the intelligence community has ways of getting even, like he said, that sounds like a threat to me.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's said this multiple times before, and this has always been something that he says, and I think it's true when unchecked. Right? There's a lot of. I mean, I've spent most of my time at the agency, and it's obviously a very powerful entity and organization. And when it's used right, it's probably the most important tool we have in our disposal here at home. When used wrong, it can be devastating to Americans and freedoms and all of that. And that's not just picking on that particular organization. That's true for all of them, as we've seen this. But it absolutely is a threat by Chuck Schumer. And again, he's said those exact words before. That's just who he is. But really, at the end of the day, Chuck and all these guys, They're making threats. They're saying a bunch of things because they themselves are terrified.
Oh, they're
that's
terrified.
A beautiful thing.
They're terrified to hear what's going to be in the Epstein list. We'll get to that soon. They're terrified to see what more is going to be uncovered by the audits and who's going to get in trouble. And yes, the feds will be auditing those politicians whose wealth grew exponentially when it came to while they were serving in public office. That should have always been a suspicion for a long time. Only those of us that paid attention.
I have no idea how no one's ever. You and I and us here on this show have raised flags about it, but everyone else has just gone about their daily lives like, nah, that doesn't seems fine to me. It does? Okay. Think you're paying attention there, Scooter, but all right.
Chuck Schumer, again, he's a sneaky piece of slime. If it wasn't for Adam Schiff, he'd be the worst of the group over there. And he tries to sound like an honest or a tough New Yorker. He's like, yeah, well, from what I was told, no, I'm sure he was talking to some people in there and trying to egg them on. Angie, Drew, I want to ask you a question, though. Has anybody else noticed the stark resemblance between Chuck Schumer and Mr. Noseworthy from Mallard Fillmore comics? I mean, look at that. They could be twins.
I can't say that I ever have, but I see it now. I see it now. And I appreciate you enlightening me on this.
Has he ever worn a bow tie? I don't think he's ever worn a bow tie, has he? I mean, that's just giving way too much credit to cartoons. Who is he talking to there, by the way? Who is he actually thinking his audience is when he's like making these really thinly veiled baby mob threats, right? I mean,
yeah.
he looks like an evil villain in a suit. It's hysterical.
Well, it is MSNBC, so,
Yeah, they've been having a lot of firings lately.
A lot of changes happening over at MSNBC. It's pretty fun to watch. I love it. Each morning, someone else got fired. It's great. I know we're not supposed to cheer for that, but I do. So it's been amazing.
Let's put it this way. I don't like to see anybody lose their job. It's horrible. But if you're a race baiting misandrist at times, then like Joy Reid, we'll put it this way. Many people have been fired for things she said on other stations because they were not, let's just say, of these certain protected classes.
Yes.
She had to go on. Of course, she needs to have her last show, which I'm sure would be a disaster. I'm a programmer. I have program radio. Anytime we gave somebody a last show, it was always denigrating the network, giving some inside information or throwing some sort of tantrum. I never let that happen after the first time. And that was even my call the first time. So that's the lesson I learned when my boss made that call.
Yeah.
Having said that, there is the internet, and she did take to that such internet and cried about us. And I can see people being upset, but let's just stop with this. Her show having value.
But also that my show had value.
35 cents, maybe.
Yeah. I got such a kick out of hearing that opening line too. I mean, who determines value, right? There's obviously that question there, but the show was terrible. And she was one of the most vile, racist people on any of the networks out there. I really don't know who enjoyed that other than people who just wanted to commiserate and be miserable together, because you listen to it. It's like, you're so tone deaf. You're so out of touch with everyday Americans. And she goes on and brags about, her support for BLM, which of course did nothing for the Black community. She goes on to talk about her stuff on all these different issues where it's like, but you were so wrong on every one of those issues. You didn't get one thing right in any of those areas.
Yeah. And she's starting to look a little bit like Wendy Williams there. That kind of like, where am I kind of look.
Let's be clear. Wendy Williams, even though Wendy has a lot more hair, not the great Wendy O. Williams. No comparison there.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Sorry, all these cultural references.
I always get her with those, but I was a big fan of Wendy O. Williams growing up. The Plasmatics, great band, and of course, her starring role in Reform School Girls.
Okay. See, I'm learning all sorts of stuff today. This is...
Well, let's bring you some more joy. I think Joy brings even more joy than Kamala Harris brought to the campaign.
And that... I'm sorry. that what I was doing had value.
Had value to who? Drew, Angie, any value there? Well, okay, maybe for us to roast her all the time, we're going to miss doing that, aren't we?
Yeah, we definitely have her on a lot on our show. She's like the value meal girl, like she's like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess so. Look, she's great for our show. We love roasting her all day long. Joy Reid, I hope you come back and maybe start a YouTube channel or something. Maybe that's a good platform for you where you might want to belong. Drew, what's going to happen to her now? What do you think? Does she go away? Does she move to Europe? What do you think?
No, I mean that would be great, but I think I'm torn on this because, like you're saying, there's certain people who just provide so much content to talk about. Joy Reid's talked about on my show a lot too, so I will miss the temporary pause that we have, but I think that she finds her way back. I think that some of these people end up doing better away from these networks that are so bad. I'm not suggesting that she will. A lot of them end up flopping, like Don Lemon left, and every once in a while he's got a headline or a soundbite, but like he's basically just disappeared and is assaulting people in bars and doing all the stuff that he loves to do.
But he's boring. He's really boring, though. Joy Reid at least is fun and entertaining because she just says the worst, most outlandish things.
Yeah.
And Don Lemon's like, well, I changed my socks today. He's like the Mitch McConnell of liberal anchors.
Well, I think that she will come back. I think we will get more because she's going to you're going to have her gal pals, Rachel Maddow, saying, you should go do it, girl, go start something, go do something great. And she's going to actually, I think that she does. I don't know that she lands at a network again, but I think that she'll do her own show and she'll try and be relevant. And, there'll be some sound bites that we get to play with again down the road because here's the thing, people like her, they just can't help it. It's not like she's going to tuck her tail and be like, no one likes me. She thinks that she's amazing. And she thinks that a lot of people like her, and neither of those things are true. So for all those reasons, I think that we see some form of a comeback. It just won't be as successful as one, but that's great because we still get the content to roast her on.
Yeah. Maybe she could be one of the View girls.
That's the one show that I could see her actually going on. Can you imagine?
It would be called, with Joy Behar, it would be called Happy Joy. That would be a new show. Not to be outdone, Rachel Maddow had to put her, I would guess, say, if there's value, 3 cents in, because MSNBC, inflation, that sort of thing, But she decided to disparage her own network, which generally is a no-no, but I believe she's pretty safe where she is, so she thinks she can do this. Let's hear what she had to say about the Joy Reid firing.
An even bigger programming change is at 7 p.m. Eastern, where Joy Reid's show, The Readout, ended tonight.
Look, you got to stop with that lip. You're not as cool as Billy Idol.
Joy is not taking a different job in the network. She is leaving the network altogether. And that is very, very, very hard to take. I am 51 years old. I have been gainfully employed since I was 12. And
is she smirking when she's talking? I mean, the funny thing is, it really looks like she's glad Joy's gone. It's like Joy's getting all the attention. Everybody's talking about her and nobody's talking about me. Again, I might be reading too much into this, but that smile and smirk kind of says something else to me.
Yeah. Well, and are you actually allowed to work at 12? I thought that
labor laws, right?
It's 14 in most states, right? I mean, I don't.
No. I actually worked at 12. I was a paper boy.
Did you?
She could have been a paper boy too.
She could. Yeah, that's true. There's ways to go about it.
I commend anybody who's worked hard since they were 12. The problem is the people she's talking to are the people that don't really want to work, and they're upset because some boss asked their employees to list some things they've done. I contract. I have my own business. Every client can ask me what I've done for the week. And even though I only work a couple hours for each of them a day, or an hour a day for each of them, I can list 5 things per day I do for them.
I know, right? I think we should all list 5 things that we were very productive at and accomplished last week. It's if you and I and a monkey can do it, I think federal workers could do it too. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, I think everyone can. Again, I was talking about this on my show yesterday, or maybe it was a different day this week, sometime this week. But, I get, like, if you're like, being a former operator, being overseas, going and hunting people, like, you don't want to be slowed down with stupid bureaucratic things. Is it easy to do? Yes. So I get the people who are actually doing their job saying, this is dumb, I shouldn't have to do this. But the problem is we've got so much government bloat and there's so many mouth-breathing, just useless people there that you've got to overcorrect and have these big kind of corporate punishment type things to just clean it up. And I think it'll eventually sunset and go away. I think it's just it's a phase. And I love it because it does show who should be there and who shouldn't be there, because you see the ones who are like, I can't come to work. I can't tell you 5 things I did. Like that's
too much.
That's too much. Like, okay, thank you for telling us. Goodbye. You're done. Like, there's just so much cleanup that has to happen. I think it's great. I think, he's on the right track with how he's doing this, both Trump and Elon, because it just has to happen. I mean, that was one of my biggest frustrations for so long. It's like, who are all these people?
What do they do?
I don't see them doing anything with us. And then there's some that don't do operations, but they still support us. You're good.
Right.
But like, who are the rest of all of you guys?
It's the blow. A lot of these positions are those who, a lot of them are like campaign volunteers who are owed some kind of work or whatever else, or the people that just go in, find out a nice way to work the system, and they just sit there and let things go. It's a huge waste of time. A lot of middlemen, and it's nice to see the Bobs under the guise of Doge.
Yeah.
Taking care of things. By the way, Angie, I have to take offense to one thing. You said even a monkey can do some of these things. Some of these monkeys are pretty talented, or chimpanzees, if you will, because that's the great actors that were involved in Lancelot Link's Secret Chimp, which, by the way, one of the greatest shows in the history of television.
That one I know. I know like half, maybe a quarter of all Chris's like pop references. Guys, you have to. I didn't grow up with the TV, so like all of this, I'm trying to catch up with. But yeah, no, that's a good one. That was a good show,
and that was a fast pull too.
Yeah, let's do some more, Rachel.
Let's do it.
Many different kinds of jobs. You wouldn't believe me if I told you.
Wait a minute, fast pull. I can't let that one get past. It sounds like Eric Swalwell on one of his dates. Okay, back to Rachel.
But in all of the jobs I have had, in all of the years I have been alive, there is no colleague for whom I have had more affection and more respect than Joy Reid. I love everything about her. I have learned so much from her. I have so much more to learn from her. I do not want to lose her as a colleague here at MSNBC. And personally, I think it is a bad mistake to let her walk out the door.
Okay, here's another thing. She is, this MSNBC is still pretty top heavy. People like Rachel Maddow make a lot of money, even with the pay cut. It's like it's like one of those baseball teams that have 2 or 3 very well paid people, and the rest are that kind of make up the rest of the lineup, and the rest of the bench are paid so little they probably don't belong in the major leagues in the first place. So they had to cut out the likes of Joy Reid because the likes of Rachel Maddow are making so much money, and of course the morning show hosts. Yeah. They had to make the cut somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to look, everyone can, not just Rachel Maddow, who I'm obviously not a very big fan of, but you can respect or like whoever you want, right? It's right. Still America, and it seems like it actually might be more America here in the coming years. But I don't get what there is to respect, at least of what we see portrayed on camera from Joy Reid. Because again, she's so angry, she's so mean-spirited, and she's just so wrong. And then you come to find out that not only was she fired, but she had a staff of like 30 people.
Yeah,
it's like you need that many people to prop you up. Like that's not that hard. I wish I had a staff of 30 people on the show. It'd be amazing. But to me, like the respect comes down even more. Like, okay, you didn't put any thought into this. You just got really mad and did whatever you did to get jacked up and angry. And then executed your show with the staff of 30 people. I think that's wild.
Yeah, Drew. I wish we had more time with you. We're glad you're here. By the way, we do think that MSNBC should be hiring Scott Jennings. They could use something like, or someone like Scott Jennings to tell the rest of their liberal morons off. That would be terrific. But before you go, tell us again where our viewers can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So best place is always Rumble, YouTube. You know, YouTube's my biggest channel. It's just we get the least views there now because they hate me. But
you know, talk about the Brazilian election.
Yeah. I mean, ever since 2020, man, we used to do pretty darn well there, and it's been wild. But go check it out. You can YouTube, Rumble. You can go and watch it on drewberquist.com too. There's a feed there with all the different shows. There's also article content you can do there. So wherever you like to do your content the most, it's there. So go check it out. Again, it's Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern every week.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks so much for coming on and roasting with us today.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me on.
All right.
All right, I'll just do silence here so I'll just cut this part out and we'll go on next. Yeah, thanks a lot, Drew. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. You too, Chris. No, wishing you guys all the best with this new show, and let me know where we can help, or any of that, or if you need whatever you need, just let me know.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
If you ever have Angie on your show, just mention it.
We'll get Angie back on for sure. It's been too long. We haven't been doing guests that much, which is part of the reason. Has nothing to do with. But yeah, I would love to do that. So
no,
Drew, let me ask you, where are you based?
Yeah.
So our studio is in Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
Oh, so you're just a little bit north of us. Cool.
Yeah. Where are you?
I'm in Miami. We should meet in the middle and have a drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you make it all the way, we've got a full bar in the studio.
I have a couple of friends that live down in Jacksonville.
That's inspirational.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So yeah, I mean, you're always welcome here. Come on. Obviously it's more fun to have people in studio. So
absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Take care, guys.
I know we do a lot of roasting here, Angie, but let's go to somebody who actually does some pretty good roasting on his own. That's Scott Jennings, who we just mentioned, by the way. He was on CNN. He's always on CNN. And I don't know how he gets away with what he says, because they're a bunch of whiny lefties over there. And they always they have this superior smirk on them. They always think they're the best. And it's always him against about 3 or 4 of them. He always comes out on top. It's like Bill Clinton. I mean, that's a different one.
You're just like with the one-liners today.
I'm like Catskill on the movie Heart Beeps. And that's a really, really bad and what was it? Obscure reference to a pretty bad 80s movie. But anyway,
okay.
Different story for a different day. Let's hear some Scott.
Can we be real for a moment that Doge is not about cutting money, right? It's not about spending. It's about shrinking government so that it'll be too small to stop Trump with whatever else is in this plan.
Why would the government stop Trump? Isn't he the head of the government? You're saying the government would be too small to stop Trump. If Trump's the president, why would the government?
Look at that look on his face. He's like, wait a minute. I said something. I'm speaking. And who are you to correct me? Look. By the way, my leisure suit looks.
What? Wait. Well, let's see what he says.
Okay. By the way, my leisure suit looks better than his outfit.
I love the glasses, man. That is so.
It's hip. It's very hipster. The guy needs to be at a cereal bar.
2018.
Actively trying to stop him
because they want to shredding the Constitution and creating an authoritarian dictatorship.
I love that. They always go to that. He's shredding the Constitution and he's creating an authoritarian dictatorship. Boy, how many times have you heard that after we had a government that came down on people who prayed in front of or near abortion clinics or Planned Parenthood or something like that?
This is why we need to bring back civics classes in elementary school. I think everyone should pass that before they're allowed to graduate 5th grade. He's making up his own constitution here. It's hysterical, but that's okay. He says it with the hair and the glasses, so you got to believe him, right? Because he's got the look.
Yes. He's actually hip and cool. He's going to Studio 54 after this, although he's going to be pretty disappointed.
And no matter who is in office, I'm going to hold them accountable. But more importantly, I'm going to make sure the government is working for the American people.
Both of you all made an interesting point, which is that your view is that Trump is shredding the Constitution. I'd like to hear more about that. But that it seems to me that you all both believe that the unelected part of our government, the bureaucracy, has a responsibility to resist the political leadership. Is that your view?
That's not.
She looks flabbergasted. It's like, yeah, but I can't say that on television.
Man, oh man, he's good. He's good. Wow.
I love the fact he can go into. And he also was on with a panel with Ana Navarro before. Ana Navarro, she's the "Why I Sound Like Rosie Perez Too Much" contest winner. But let's hear what Scott Jennings did to, let's just say, get this crowd.
and it is just plain wrong.
And it's random.
It's abusive.
It's random.
It's abusive.
Yes,
to get an email?
I do think
It's
that I
abusive to
think
get
the
a
way that
threatening
they
email.
are. Yeah, I
Why?
think the way that
Why?
they are treating them.
Why? How is this?
Why?
How is this abusive?
Scott, have you
I
ever
saw-
gotten an
I
email
saw-
from someone that said, you
Yeah, I
better
would-
do this or else you're going to resign?
Yeah, it's
From
called
someone
having
who-
it's called
from
having a
some-
boss.
from
in the
someone
private-
who's-
See, that's the thing. It's what he said. Having a boss in the private sector.
Yeah, it's called having a boss. Go do your job. Show up to work. Tell me 5 things that you did last week. Can you even do that? I mean, I'm like pulling my hair out going, is this hard? Is this like, I don't understand what we were doing for the last 4 years. What, were you thinking that you were going to just get a paycheck every single week and healthcare and all the benefits and you didn't have to do a thing? Is that like what we're fighting for here? Because like you're going to lose that game.
I think a lot of these people in the government right now, either never held a job before this or only held jobs in the public sector where they were never held accountable. In the private sector, it's accountability each day. You have to make sure you produce for the boss. And I know there are places that aren't like that, but many of them are. And everywhere I've worked, well, the good thing is, Angie, you and I, when we do work, people see it. So that does help a little bit. But
Yeah, it does.
people see what comes out because we put it out there. But if we're not putting anything out there, they know we're not doing anything. That's also bad for them.
Like it is staggering. I mean, I guess maybe like I should try out being a federal worker because like I could think of all the other things I could do other than being, I don't know, on air correcting the leftist narrative. I don't know, maybe helping congressional candidates win. I don't know, raising money for the GOP. Like I'm thinking like I could finally get that facial or that like 2-hour massage that I'm like desperately needing. Like I would love to do all these things, right? Is that what's going on when like, you know, I'm supposed to be checking my emails and I don't know, typing stuff? Like, is that what is expected of me? And you know what's really funny is Elon Musk is not saying this, but I know he's doing this. He's taking all those emails, those millions of emails coming from federal workers. He's running it through Grok, his AI like super brain, and he's trying to figure out what each department does, who does what, and seeing redundancies, seeing productivity. So it's like, this is like the best machine ever. It's like, imagine having a Facebook and just running all that raw data in and figuring out like who that person is and like all their likes and their family members and everything like that. That's what he's doing with the government. He's building these online personas in AI. Obviously, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but, but I think that's awesome that he's doing it because no one knows what half these jobs are. I mean, I've looked at the Plum Book, which is all the listings for federal jobs. Like, what? The language is so HR and maybe so government HR. You're like, I have no idea what this word means. Like I'm of medium intelligence and I can't figure out like, you know, random qualifications and duties of these jobs because it doesn't make sense to humans.
Well, the other thing is this, again, in the private sector, we constantly have to prove ourselves. We constantly have to make sure that we're producing. And yes, if you're on the upper level, you have to make sure that your people are producing because your people above you want to make sure are going to be holding you accountable just as much. So accountability is important. The thing is, though, people do tend to forget, and this happens every presidential election. People are looking for a leader. People are looking for somebody to look up to. No, that's not how how one should handle a presidential election as a voter. What you should be doing is treating these election cycles like job interviews, where each of these candidates are asking to work for you because that's what they're doing. You're the ones that hold them accountable for wrongdoing. You hold them accountable for what inability to do the job before you vote for them, and even after you vote for them. You vote them out when they can't do the job. Fact is, we're the bosses. We're even the president's boss to a degree in that respect.
Yes, we
and the
are.
president's their boss. So we want our president, their boss, to hold them accountable because we're paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's amazing to me is you have some of the senior managers telling their employees, don't fill out that email. And you're thinking, why? Oh, well, could it maybe expose that the senior managers don't even know how to manage? Like, imagine if you had a team of 15 and you're supposed to produce X and they write all sorts of different things for their 5 things that they've accomplished, right? It looks like a complete chaos. So even the senior managers are like, don't expose me, right? It is just wildfire right now. Look, if this were the corporate world and the private sector, anytime there's a mergers or even an acquisition, the first thing you're doing is an audit, right? You're going in there, you're cleaning house, you're looking at, line items, you're seeing where the money's going. This is exactly what's happening to our government on a very, very large scale. And it's like, why wouldn't you do that? Why don't we always do this? No, this is like, I think Bill Clinton might have done a little bit of this, but this is one of the very first true government audits that we've seen. And it's public. So I love watching how the sausage is made. I love seeing where all this money was going. I loved even seeing $2 billion going to Stacey Abrams for some BS, nonprofit she was doing, right?
Mhm.
It's like, now we know really what is going on, why there were foot soldiers for Biden and other Democrats. They were all getting paid. And this is how they were getting paid. So show me the money.
Again, we want to see all of this. This is why we want to hold them all accountable. One more thing before we go, though. There are certain public servants that, at least if they don't do much at all, they provide us fine entertainment. One such person is Jasmine Crockett.
Ooh,
We
at least
love
she has good
Jasmine
hair.
Crockett. And she has great hair. She has better hair than, most of the squad, by the way.
She has hair.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. Here's the thing. Jasmine Crockett seems to be the new Democrat star, the one that's replacing Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because, by the way, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a complete dummy. She will never serve in a leadership capacity for that party, and that was already shown because they wouldn't let her do so this year. And she should be somewhat promoted in that respect if she was doing a good job, but she's not. Now, Stacey Crockett, on the other hand, has been loud. She's been brash during almost every congressional hearing that I've seen and every subcommittee hearing that I've seen. I remember she and what's her name? She and Marjorie Taylor Greene almost came to blows a little while back.
Yes, she did.
Fact is, she has become the Democrats' new star. Problem is, she's also a moron. Listen to her and her analysis of how, and again, this was earlier this week before the budget was passed by the House, her prediction that the budget won't pass the House.
But we're in the minority. But so long as we stand strong and not one Democrat falters, let me tell you, there are going to be Republicans that don't want to vote for this, and they can't lose more than one vote. So long as we stand together and so long as we're here, and the Republicans, they're dysfunctional.
First off, this private school woman is trying to come off as Jazzy from the block.
Look, I've seen her say worse things, and I will tell you, unlike previous congressional hearings where all I'm looking at are her eyelashes, she got it right. Okay, I hate to be a girly girl, but she got her look right. The things that are coming out of her mouth, though, I mean, she sounds like she hasn't really graduated 5th grade. Oh, then that's an insult to 5th graders. I'm sorry. I mean, pre-K.
Now Jeff Foxworthy is going to be upset at you because he's going to say, "Are you smarter than a 5th grader?" We all know the answer to that with her, but we get that. We understand. But she's their big star, but now she's trying to act it up and pull up. She probably is going to drop the ball in that respect as well. This act is going to wear thin because, yes, Democrats can always be wrong, but
Yes.
this whole street act and this whole, I'm not sure what cash me out attitude that she has or whatever else. I'm not sure how to put it that way, but it's going to wear thin after maybe another year.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't mind her as much. I mean, I hope that she's the new AOC because AOC is already, she's probably boring to herself. AOC has completely overdone it. She is off brand at this point, way too socialist, even for New York City. And you're going to see that in the coming election. This is going to be a street fight for her. I don't know. I don't mind her as much because I can read her and I can predict her, right? Whereas, and I think the Democratic Party should rebrand themselves. And if it's all going to go towards Jasmine, guess what, Chris? We're going to win big in 2026. So let's go. More AOCs, more Jasmines, more hair, more lashes. Let's go. I love it. If that's what the party is going to produce for us, we can beat that.
To be fair, I would rather listen to Jasmine Crockett over the Kamala Harris cackle. So if the Democrats are trying to be cool, hip, and street, well, that's the way to go, because Kamala Harris cannot be cool, hip, or street, and she sure could never be a politician that one could take seriously. So she loses either way. That's in that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez category.
Yeah. Are we still talking about Kamala? It took me 4 years to figure out how to say her name. I kept saying her name wrong. I kept saying Camilla. And I was like every Democrat jump on me, like, how dare you? Like, and it's like I had to take speech lessons to say her name. And I finally got it right, and she didn't win. Oh,
see, what a waste of time. What a waste of all those lessons. You know what? You should audit them too. You need Doge to come down and say, hey, what do we waste all the time with those lessons for? On the other hand, though, people pronounce my name wrong all the time. I'm Italian. Hey, it is what it is. I don't take offense to it. And it's going to happen in life. People pronounce names wrong. Angie, let's do some roasting in the coming weeks. Thanks for doing this again. This is fun. Thank you for joining us. Thanks to Drew. And this is a great time.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.